Hey folks, Mark here with a vinyl update, this time from a store in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania called Jerry's Records. This one, I'd heard a lot about this store from different people, and also VC members have done videos about it. There's an episode of Pack Rats about this guy. So I thought, well, let's check it out for yourself and see what it's all about. So I did. 2.5 hours, a little under that, it took me to get there. Boy, was it worth it. You go upstairs into the store, and it's just vinyl everywhere. They even have a room for 78s only, and then another room for old stereos and electronics. But then the main reason you go there is because of the record room, and I only really made it to one aisle. The new wave, punk, alternative indie aisle. I think they kind of put it all in one. That was the aisle I stayed in. I really didn't get to stretch much into the store and check out more stuff because they were about to close. I stayed till 5:30. I got there at 2:30, I stayed till 5:30. So 3-hour dig. My fingers were very scuffed up and tired after this, but boy, I don't think I left any stone unturned in the store. And you know what's interesting is they had loads of obscure records, but whenever you'd get to like a section by a bigger band, like Depeche Mode or New Order or The Cure, there'd be nothing in there. So apparently keeping those records in stock is pretty tough. But, fortunately I have all those records, or most of the ones I want by those groups, so there wasn't really anything by them that I wanted. But, boy, sure found a bunch of other strange things. So, let's go through them. Not going to do much description on these, just because there's so many of them. And some of them I don't know much about. And also, these records, pretty much everything I got was between $3 and $6 a piece. Some, mostly $3 and $4 a piece. There were a few things that were $5 and $6. There's one record that I got that was $8, and that was it. So everything here I got pretty cheap. But let's get going. First, we'll do a stack of 7-inch shingles. Oh, and by the way, I got so much stuff that they had to put it in a box. We went straight for the box, skip the bag. So here we go. Witch's Brew. This is a split 7-inch from 1979 of the Stiff label and Oval. It's a group called Witch's Brew. The Party's Over. Flipped with ABC, Rhythm on the Radio. Now, this isn't the ABC that you and I know with Martin Fry. This is obviously some other ABC. So, there you go. Albania. This is on the Stiff label. They had a lot of things on the Stiff label. So I got this one. It's called Could This Be Love? Albania. Here's one on Factory called Ad Infinitum is the group. Single's called Telstar. It's the Joe Meek song. And it's on Factory. I'm like, $3, I'll take it. By the way, when I was done at the store, he knocked $30 off the whole order. Can you believe that? What a guy. I mean, this stuff was a great store. I highly recommend you go to Jerry's Records. So let's move on. Helpless by Tracy Ullman. Single I didn't have by her. I always like her stuff from the 83, 84, 85 era. I don't really know if she's been doing records since then. Soul on Ice is a group, and the single is called Widescreen. How can you lose? Soul on Ice, Widescreen from 1982 on Red Rhino Records. Here's something really cool. Urbaniacs. It's a single called Burning Circuits. What a great name, Burning Circuits. And this is what sold me. So if any of you guys are into mute records, you'll notice that on all your mute records, especially the 80s ones, I don't know so much about the 90s, but the 80s ones were Sonnet Publishing. Well, I found this single, it was on Sonnet Records, which is the same thing as Sonic Publishing. Obviously, they tried to go out and do their own label, so I don't think they got very far. But here you go, Urbaniacs, Burning Circuits. I can't wait to hear this. None of these I've heard, by the way. I've just unboxed all this. Jonah Louie, early synth guy on the Stiff label. Kind of like pub synth pop, kind of. A very sing-songy kind of songs. 2 singles I didn't have. One called Rearranging the Deck Chairs of the Titanic. Love that. And then this one called Shaggy Raggy from Jonah Louie. These are probably I think I already have about 4 singles by him, so those make 6. Here's one that I've always loved. I have this on an album, Yachts. This is a group featuring Henry Priestman, who would later form It's Immaterial and also the Christians later on in the 1980s. But early on, he was in this power pop band called Yachts, and they had this fantastic single called Now I'm Spoken For. I think it's on the album Without Radar. So great, great song. If you're into 1979 era power pop with a new wave twist, get this. Here's something that was kind of interesting. DJ Icy from the club days of the 1990s, when I used to go out to nightclubs a lot, you know, and there was a DJ named DJ Icy, and I used to hear his stuff out all the time. And I looked to see if it was the same one, and it is. He's from Florida. It's a split 7-inch he did with a guy named Kelly Reverb, who I remember from Dallas, Texas. He used to be on Edge Club. Back, Edge Club was a show on a station called The Edge in Dallas, the alternative station. They had a dance club night called Edge Club, and often Kelly Reverb could be heard on that show. So, kind of a cool 7-inch. DJ Icy with Kelly Reverb. The Dancing Did, this is my third single by them, post-punk band from the UK. I don't know much about them, but this single's called The Lost Platoon. Here's something by Johnny Rocco. Oh, no, it's Dave Stewart and Barbara Gaskin, and the single's called Johnny Rocco. Yeah, there it is. I love Dave Stewart and Barbara Gaskin. This isn't the same Dave Stewart that's Eurythmics. This is a different Dave Stewart. But they did a string of great singles together in the early 1980s, him and Barbara Gaskin. Synth pop, best way to describe them. So I can't wait to hear this. Johnny Rocco on Stiff. China Crisis, Scream Down at Me. I never had the 7-inch to this. I just have the 12-inch. The only difference is the sleeve, which is completely different. Cool sleeve by Peter Seville, too. But also the B-side, Cucumber Garden, is shortened. So I want to make sure I'm correct here on Peter Seville. I'm pretty sure that is who did the cover art to this. Well, it doesn't say, but I'm pretty sure it is. I'll find out. Here's one thing. World Service by Anthony Moore. I think he used to be in a band called Henry Cow. I might be wrong there. But he did a great album called World Service in 1980. I think it was 1980. 81. Oh, and this is on the Do It label. I see. Do It releasing the earliest singles by Adam and the Ants. They put this out. Good power pop, new wave kind of thing from 1981, 82. Anthony Moore. He had an album called Flying Doesn't Help, too. It was really good. Here's a group called the Bloomsbury Set. This Year, Next Year, and The Other Side of You. I don't know anything about them, except they're on Graduate Records, and that's the label that had UB40 in the early 1980s. So I'm thinking they might be kind of reggae-ish. We'll see. Redbox, they later signed to Sire Records, and had a hit with this song called Chenko over in the UK, but in their early days, they had issued this on the Cherry Red label, and I'd always kind of wanted to find that. They had a 12-inch of this too, but I thought, well, let's just get the 7-inch for now. Redbox, Chenko. They had an album called The Circle and the Square over here in the US that did moderately okay for them. Polyphemus, a good kind of shoegazy band from the early 90s. This is a indie single they put out through Beggar's Banquet. And this came out in 1993. Good stuff. Polyphemus. If you're into the My Bloody Valentine, kind of shoegaze thing. Good stuff. Secret Affair, Time for Action. Always wanted a copy of this single. I have the album. But mod band from the UK, 1980. Secret Affair. This was actually a hit for them. Time for Action. Here's something that's on the Get Hip label. A very cool garagey label. And I believe the label's out. Yeah, Norfolk, Virginia. No? I'm trying to think out where the Get Hip label is based out of. I'm wondering if it's based out of Cannonsburg, Pennsylvania. Okay, I was thinking it was out of Pittsburgh, but not exactly. Anyway, this is a band called the M80s. I don't know much about them, but it looks like good garage psych kind of thing. This came out in 1989. Here's another record on Factory. This is Kevin Hewick. I have a 12-inch he had done with the group The Sound. And this is something he did on his own, and it looks like it's a version of Kathy's Clown by the Everly Brothers. So, although he's calling it Kathy Clown. So I'm not quite sure if this is a cover or not. But cool die-cut sleeve there, huh? Probably done by Peter Seville, I would imagine. Here's something by Spiz Oil, actually late 70s post-punk, punk music. This guy has gone under the name Spiz Energy. He's got a single called Soldier Soldier that you should find on that. This is Spiz Oil, and I think this is right before Spiz Energy. So this is probably more like 78. And I haven't heard it. It's called 6000 Crazy on Rough Trade. I don't know this, but it's called She's a Vampire. This is on the Oval label, what I showed you earlier. Oval being, somehow they're related to Cherry Red. But this is a single called Woodhead Monroe. Oh no, the band is called Woodhead Monroe. And the song's called Mumbo Jumbo. And I like the B-side. She's a Vampire. Looked like it could be fun. I don't know anything about this guy, Jacko. But he was produced by Dave Stewart of Dave Stewart and Barbara Gaskin. So I thought for $3, let's try it. I don't know about the sleeve, but we'll find out if Jacko is any good. There he is on the back. Very contemplative. And then the last 7-inch I got was by Vibrasonic. I have an album by them. Very, you know, I don't know, sitar-y, psychedelic kind of thing. I don't know how you describe them. Just psychedelic. They had a 7-inch by them called If I Were a Rich Man. All right, we're at 10 minutes in. I better bust through these pretty quick. Here are the albums. Here's what I spent the most money on. I spent $8 on this. Cass Product. And he actually sold it to me for $4. So I wound up really not, you know, but the price tag was $8. So I was prepared to spend it. New Wave Band out of France from 1982. I used to have this on cassette. Got it in a cutout bin back in the 80s. The cassette got eaten. Bye-bye Cass Product until now. Now I have it on vinyl. Minimal synth at its finest from 1982 on RCA Records. Gloria Mundi. This is a band that featured future soloists Eddie Malov and Sunshine Patterson in the early 80s. They were a synth duo, alternately known as Eddie and Sunshine. Well, before all of that, they were in a late 70s band called Gloria Mundi, and I have one of their singles. And this is their full-length album, also on RCA. The album is called The Word Is Out. So, Gloria Mundi. Looking forward to hearing that. Probably very new wave-ish. Something by the Flower Pot Men, mid-80s gothy kind of band. They have 2 other singles, Walk on Gilded Splinters and Joe So Mean to Josephine. Got those. They put out this 3rd one, and it was called the Alligator Bait EP. I never had it. I think this is from like 86. Later on in the 90s, they would do more experimental, well, more trancey synth music under the name Sunsonic, and also, I think Juno Reactor is what they also were known as. Liverpool band from the early 80s called Cook Da Books. Now that's Cook D-A Books. When they signed to Virgin, they were known as that. Well, obviously early on, they were known as Cook The Books. This is a single they put out in 1981 called Piggy in the Middle 8. Like the title. And it's on the Pro Plus label out of Liverpool, England. Being, that is the label, I believe, that is in conjunction with the record store from Liverpool that is pretty much a gathering place for all the Echo and the Bunnymans and Teardrop Explodes and Wild Swans that would emerge out of Liverpool in the late 70s. Pete Burns from Dead or Alive used to work there. So, the Probe record store has a big history. So this is a label associated with it, Probe Plus. Another record on the Do It label. This is called Everest the Hard Way. I don't know anything about it. I've heard the name before, but I don't know anything about this group. It's a 4-track EP, Everest the Hard Way, from 1981, I believe. Let's look and see. 1982, 81 and 82. And it, again, is on the Do It label. You can see that in the back. That label released the earliest Adam and the Ants album, Dirk Wears White Socks. Explorers. This is what Andy McKay and Phil Manzanera did after Roxy Music split up and Brian Ferry went solo. They got another guy named James Wraith, did this album. I never actually owned it. I have all the 12 inches from it, but I never owned the album, so now I do. $4. The Explorers. Catwalk. I don't know much about this, except that it's kind of shoegazy from the early 90s on the Dedicated label that had Chapter House and Spiritualize and Cranes. So I really love the Dedicated label. So I thought I'd check out Catwalk. And I noticed Ed Buller is all over this record. And Ed Buller had previously been in Psychedelic Furs playing synths with them in the mid-1980s. And then famously produced Pulp and Suede's. Some of their first Suede album and Pulp's His and Hers were all produced by Ed Buller. Great guy. So curious to hear more of what he does. Corn Dollies, a late 80s C86 jangly indie band. I have one single by them called Map of the World. Well, this is a 12-inch called Shake. I never had it. From 1988, the Corn Dollies. I remember right before The Farm kind of broke big in 1990 with Groovy Train and All Together Now and all that, they'd put out this single of I'm Not Your Stepping Stone. And it kind of vanished. I always wanted to hear it. I never did get around to hearing it. So now I'm going to. I found a copy. It's called Stepping Stone with Family of Man by The Farm. Black September. Some records you know, some records find me. I have a feeling this might be one. This is an indie label. The label is called Lost Moment Records. I've heard of it somehow, but I can't remember how. But this is a 12-inch from 1985. It's called Rainbow Kiss by Black September. You know, it's something about it just says this is going to be good. Animal Nightlife, an early 80s pop act. Don't know too much about them, but this is a 12-inch they put out called Love Is Just the Great Pretender. I think some of the members of this band used to be in Blue Rondo a la Turk, a calypso band from the early 1980s out of the UK. And I see this is on the Intervision label, too, which released some of Wham's earliest 12 inches from 1983. We'll see how that is. And Altered Images. This is a 3-track dance mix of Pinky Blue from the album. It's a 12-inch version. And then a couple other tracks, Jump Jump, and I think that it might kind of fuse together to make one big dance mix. So, thought I'd check it out. I'd never seen this before. Altered Images. A Witness. This is a band from the UK. I don't know too much about them. They're a little scratchy and noisy from what I remember. But this is the first record I've actually had by them. They were on the C86 cassette and were a lot more abrasive than a lot of the other bands. They were big there for a hot minute back in the 80s. This is a 12-inch called I Love You, Mr. Disposable Razors. Here's something I always like at Halloween. Witchcraft by Book of Love. I never did have the 12-inch version of this. So now I do. It was $3 in good shape. Mark King out of Level 42. He put out an album in 84. I think this is called Influences. I don't really like that title, but it's Mark King. I like Level 42, especially from 84, so I'm curious to hear how this is. Full-length album. Here's something called Positively Elizabeth Street. It's a Citadel compilation. Let's see if you can see that. Citadel was a really cool label out of Australia in the mid-1980s, and they released a lot of jangly, psychedelic kind of singles. Died Pretty are on here, I know them, and New Christs. Those are the only two bands I actually know on here. But found this for cheap, thought we'd check it out. Here's another comp. It's called Diamonds in Darkness. It's a compilation of things on the Midnight Music label. Really cool label, I like that a lot from the mid-1980s. English label that put out things by Sad Lovers and Giants, McCarthy. I'm trying to think of who else was on. The Essence were on Midnight Music. So stuff that was kind of moody and gothy, dark, kind of pretty. That they tended to gravitate toward the Midnight Music label. So there's a bunch of bands on here I've never heard of, like The Myth, The Invisible, Carmina Burana, The Beyond. Let's check it out and see. $4. Plastic Land, Milwaukee Sykesters from the mid-1980s, late even into the 90s. This one's called Let's Play Pollyanna. It's a 12-inch on the Repulsion label. And I love the B-sides. Radiant Fuzzbox Wig and Kaleidoscopic Glance. Plastic Land are so great. Never seen this 12-inch before, so I had to get it. Eye Level, another UK funk band from the early 1980s. Not too unlike Level 42. Two great 12-inches, Give Me and Minefield. I've always loved those, and never did get around to buying their album, so they had a copy of it in the store, so I picked it up. Came out in the US on Epic. Here's a few things from Trevor Harrion. This guy used to be with Thomas Dolby in 1981. They had a duo called The Fallout Club, and they put out 2 great singles as The Fallout Club. Very atmospheric synth tracks. Of course, Thomas Dolby went on to get mega successful and do the great Golden Age of Wireless album, and Trevor Harrion went on and did a solo career. And this is his album called Beauty Life. I never did have it. I have two 7-inches by him, but never did have his album. So while I was at it, I bought 2 12-inches by him too. This one's called Fallen Angel by Trevor Harrion. And this one is called Love Chains. Real cheap, you know, again, they're on the Interdisc label from 1983, a subsidiary of Island. So I thought I'd check them out. Let's see. Leisure Process, or Leisure Process, however you want to describe them. This is a group formed by Gary Barnacle of Visage, kind of a funk dance act from the early 1980s, not too unlike Eye Level, who I showed earlier. And this is one called Anxiety. I never did have this one. Anxiety by The Leisure Process, 1982 on the Epic label. Here's something that looked interesting, another one where records find you. This one's a 12-inch. I'm trying to remember who it's by here. Okay, Hang the Dance is the name of the band. Hang the Dance. It's a song called Horseflesh. And I see that it's on the Red Rhino label from 1986. And I like the label design. So we'll see how this is. Hang the Dance. Here's a 12-inch by Icehouse. It's Uniform, the extended version. I really love early Icehouse, especially the Primitive Man album from 1982. And this song is from that album, Uniform. So you get it extended, and then you also get a German version on the B-side. So I thought, let's check it out. There's a live cut on there too. Don't know much about Interferon, but they look like good, fun UK dance from 1982. Actually, to make that 83, this is on the Chrysalis label. It's called Steam Hammer Sam. Here's one from American Tibbs. Of course, if you like your Adam and the Ants, then you know this is these are two guys from Adam and the Ants, Gary Tibbs and John Merrick. No, that's Elephant Man. I forget who Merrick is, but they're both from Adam and the Ants. So obviously, whenever that split apart, yeah, this came out in '83. Whenever Adam Ant went solo, this is what one of his other, some of his other bandmates went and did. This 12-inch called Call of the Wild, and I don't know anything about it, but I see that Chris Hughes produced it. So there you go. Chris Hughes was also in Adam and the Ants, and he went on to do songs from the Big Chair for Tears for Fears. 12-inch by Jefferson Airhead. They later became known as Airhead. This is kind of good early 90s Britpop. Pre-Britpop, actually. This came out probably, yeah, in 1991. So it's kind of like post-baggy, but good stuff. I quite like them. And for all you Echo and the Bunnymen fans out there, you'll appreciate the fact that it's on Korova. Yep. All right, a few more here. Boy, I'm already at 22 minutes. I need to hustle here. Okay, Bill Lloyd. I don't know much about this guy, except he's an American guitar player, and I have a track by him on a flexi disc that is just great power pop. And I thought for, $4, let's check out an album. The album is called Feeling the Elephant, and it came out on the Throbbing Lobster label. So there you go, Bill Lloyd. Here's a band I remember reading a lot about. They had a record called Insanity that seemed to do well on the indie charts. Oceanic is the group. This must have been a follow-up called Controlling Me by Oceanic. They're on the Dead Dead Good label, same label the Charlatans were on. So it's a little more dancey. So I'm curious to hear how this is. Oceanic, Controlling Me. There's several remixes on here. See if any of the remixes are by people that I might know. Nope. All right, here's a band that got famous, well, not famous. They got written about in the mid-1980s as part of the UK psychedelic revival around 1984. There was like a little miniature psychedelic revival going on. Bands like Mood 6 were associated with it. I'm trying to think of some of the others. The High Tide is another group. The Prisoners. Well, here's another band called The Plain Jane. They were kind of thrown in there too, and I always remember seeing their records in stores. But, there was so much to buy. So I never did pick anything up. So I thought I'd check this out, The Plain Jane, and see if I like them. This is from 1984, and they obviously tried to break them big because it's on the A&M label. Wow, not the kind of band you would think would be on A&M. I don't know much about the Primatons. I don't know much about them at all, except that somebody on Facebook posted a link to one of their songs, and I listened to it and remember liking it a lot. This one's kind of marked up on the cover, but it was $3. It's a full-length album, and again, it's on Throbbing Lobster, just like that Bill Lloyd record. So go figure, I buy two things on Throbbing Lobster. So yeah, anyway, the Primatons. We'll see how this is. It's a 6-track EP. All right, a few more here. Let's bust through. Private Lives. I don't know much about them. They had an EP, actually an album on EMI America back in like '82, and they had a video on MTV called Living in a World Turned Upside Down that I remember kind of liking. So here's another one by them. This is called Memory of Your Name, and it's by Private Lives from 1982, Chrysalis Records. So we'll see how that is. Here's something I've been wanting. I've had this digitally for a while, The Quick. Now, not the late 70s power pop band. This is the UK dance duo of George McFarlane and Colin Campsey, who later became known as Giant Steps in the late 1980s. But in the early 80s, they were The Quick, and this is an album they put out over here called One Light in a Blackout. And it's great stuff. If you like British pop from the early 80s, that's very like heavy on bass, funky bass guitar. This is great stuff. Rhythm of the Jungle's awesome. Katie Can't, Young Men Drive Fast, Sharks Are Cool, Zulu. Great album. Hard to find too. All right, Rain. I believe this band at one point in time, Noel Gallagher from Oasis was in. This is something I had on a compilation way back then called Lemonstone Desired. Found the 12-inch to it. So I thought, well, let's just go ahead and pick it up. And I see that it's produced by Nick Lowe. So how cool is that, huh? I don't know if Noel Gallagher was in the band at the time of this release, though. I kind of have a feeling he wasn't. Here's a group called Spin. And this is a single called Let's Pretend. Spin featured a future guitarist of the group Gene. I forget the guy's name that was the lead guitarist in the Britpop band Gene. But before then, he was in this group called Spin. Kind of a post-baggy band from the UK in 1991. They put out a couple of singles. Always pretty hard to find, so I grabbed this one. Let's Pretend, parts 1 and 2. Just a couple more. 4 more. Under Two Flags, I don't know much about them, except I have a 10-inch by them. They were on Situation 2 in the early 1980s. Situation 2 being the really cool indie label that housed early releases by The Cult and Gene Loves Jezebel and the Associates. So I have a lot of respect for that label and thought I'd check out Under Two Flags. This is called Early Sunday Morning. And then The Beloved. This is a single called Happy Now on the Flim Flam label from 1987. This is before The Beloved signed to a major and got more synth poppy and had hits like Hello and Sweet Harmony. Before all that, they were a little darker and a little more jangly, and they had a single called Righteous Me that came out on the Flim Flam label. I see produced by Michael Johnson, guy that did Blue Monday by New Order. So The Beloved, we'll see how that is. 2 more, The Ups and Downs. This is a full length by this Australian band on the What Goes On label. Very jangly, uber 12-string Rickenbacker. The great single called The Living Kind. Look that up on YouTube. Great, great mid-80s jangle. This band, The Ups and Downs album, was called Sleepless. Pretty hard to find, so why not get that? Last but not least, Pete Wiley and Wah, The Mongrel, one of his final incarnations of Wah. And this is called, what is this single called? Long, Tall, Scally, and The Good Guys Don't Die, the Steve Proctor mix. Pete Wiley, huge fan of his, have pretty much everything by Wah, and did not have this one, so now I do. Pete Wiley and Wah. So there you go, that's my haul. Almost 30 minutes. It is time to draw this thing to a close. I'm exhausted. It's time to listen to these things. Y'all keep showing your great videos and showing your great vinyl on Facebook. Love seeing it. See y'all later.